Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jane.
Very short time period to present to all of you such a very long stories of Vietnamese parents and students. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I am Chi, and Ben's already introduced some information about me. So I would not waste your time by going straight into the topic of today. So what I would like to deliver to you today is the thinking of our Vietnamese parents and students, and how we can use that insights to help us to reach to them in a more effective way. So I think first of all, I will start with three things you should know about a decision making in overseas studies from the parents and the students in Vietnam. The first thing I think this is quite different from Vietnam to the other market is the long process of making a decision to going abroad to study. For Vietnamese parents and students, it is such a very, very important decision to make. And as I just talked to Ben this lunch, there are families in Vietnam who can spend their fortune, even sell their own lands and properties to send their kids abroad. So it is a big investment for them, and that's why it takes a long process. Some people even start from elementary to plan for their kids to go to university. So if they plan to go to New Zealand, for instance, maybe they send their kids to study English since they were very small. So I can say it's really long process. Secondly, it has a lot of factors. So not only thinking about the education quality, the parents also think about the finance they have to pay, the proximity, because for Vietnamese, we are very family oriented, and the parents always want to stay close to their kids. Even the children are like university, they still kind of worry, and they want to go visit their kids several times per year. So proximity is also consideration factors for the parents. And the job prospect, immigration for the kids. As the parents here think that if the kids are able to work abroad, which means that they have a good talent and they are accepted globally, and the parents feel proud if their kids are accepted or employed abroad. So they got an extra pride. If the students cannot stay abroad, maybe they think that because the students don't have the enough ability to stay there, so they are not as proud as if their kids can earn a job abroad. Or even return on investment, because some parents think that I pay for my kids to go, and I'm thinking about the salary they can get after they graduate, what kind of earnings they can get from that, what kind of career prospects. Now it's still very articulate for the Vietnamese parents. Thirdly, it involves many opinions. So as you see, Vietnamese, we have a really big families. And in order to send a kid abroad, we might not only have the parents and kids thinking in there, also have the grandparents and the relatives and the friends. Many people involved in that. So we had a lot of opinions involved in this process. Now, actually, there are many changes compared to 15 to 20 years ago. I'm an alumni from Holland. I studied in Holland about more than 20 years ago. And at that time, in order for us to choose a destination to study, we actually don't have many options. But nowadays, they have a lot of options, both in ASEAN, going to Asia like Japan, or going to Europe, or Australia, the US, Canada. Many places available for Vietnamese to choose. Before, it's very hard for us to do like visa immigration process, but nowadays it's easier. Some country even lift off the visa for Vietnam. We don't need to apply the visa to go. If you go to Singapore, for instance, you don't need to have a visa to study there. So it's getting easier. Before, we don't have many information. So the only source of information we have is the agent. So we went to the agent, and the agent tell us these are the schools that available, and these are the scholarships that we have. You can see how you want to do with it. But nowadays, the students have a lot of information, as Vietnam is the fastest changing in digital media. And we have, if you look at the number of population owning a smartphone, even in the rural areas, you will be very, very surprised. Last time I went to a very deep, remote areas to do a research for one of my clients. And contrary to our hypothesis, we thought that not many of them using smartphone. But actually 100% of our survey audience are using smartphones. So it's really shocking us of how the way Vietnamese people adapt the technology. And they are very active in finding information. Because of that, information distortion. Nowadays, the decision making will be influenced by many factors. And it's hard to convince our audience compared to before. So if you look at that picture, you have questions like, if that is the case, what kind of channels and what kind of content or message we will say to our audience to make them really convinced and want to go to New Zealand? We also have some of the suggestions here for you. So if you look at this chart, you will see that in the top, we have the two boys and girls with the scholar hat. These are the students. And the students here, you can see that they are more influencers in choice of institutions or major, whereby their parents are more like in decision of where to go and how long you can go, because they are the one who pay. So they will consider the living cost, the tuition fee, and whether the financial declaration or immigration will be easier or not. Whereby the students will look more at the real quality of the education, what are the availabilities of the programs that you have over there, or the scholarships. They will be more active in finding those information. So what should we talk with them so that they can listen? According to AC Nelson report in 2017, these are the research that they do on the group of parents and students who are planning to go abroad or sending kids abroad. And they have picked up some of the main points for Vietnamese parents. Firstly, what do they want to hear? They want to hear that this is the worthy investment, because they have to pay a lot. As I said, some of them even have the bank loan to send their kids abroad. So it should be a worthy investment. So in order to tell them our institution worth it, we should tell them that we have a lot of flexibilities or lots of options in our institutions, so that we can help them to save time and money. For instance, I know about the high school education in New Zealand. You allow the kids to jump up in terms of grades. In Vietnam, it's impossible to do so. You have to follow the step-by-steps. But in New Zealand, you have the fast-track thing, right? So it really helps the students to save their time. And also for the parents, they see that this has the flexibility for their kids' ability. If they have abilities, they can have a more choice compared to staying in Vietnam. Second, Vietnamese want to be a future game changer, which means that they think about what's next. If we send our kids to a secondary high schools, what should be the next steps for my kids? If they are in the universities, they think about the employment after that. If they are in the secondary, they will think what should be the higher education that my kids can go to. So if you can show your link with some of the higher education institutes, both either in New Zealand or abroad, even in the US or something, you still can gain the advantages with them. Thirdly, they want to hear about the pathway to successful career. Of course, the ultimate way, the ultimate objective of the parents and the students is to find a job. So if you can tell them about the industry linkage in New Zealand, what kind of internship activities or internship opportunities that you have for the students there, it would be also a plus for them. And finally, it's the home feeling. When parents send kids abroad, parents in Vietnam, I'm sorry, they worry about their kids a lot. Even when you grow up, like myself, I'm nearly 40 now, But my parents are still thinking I'm a kid. So they keep like cooking for me, doing my things. So even if they send their kids at the 18 or 20 years old, they always think that their kids are kids. So, so the home feeling, showing that the other Vietnamese are doing well in your school, and the other Vietnamese are also adapting to the new environment, are also helping them to ensure that their kids feel like at home in your country. Those are the top line message that I think you can, like somehow when you design your marketing collaterals, or you talk with the students tomorrow, you can also emphasize on those points with them. Next, I would say about the channels that you can reach them. You can see the difference between the students and the parents, whereby the students, they are very active and they are looking for the opinions from their peers. So they go on see search engine, they ask someone who studied overseas, they looking on the social media, doing some active search on the website first, and then they go to the agents and education fairs and other direct channel later. But the parents are different. The parents, they would seek for the education agent. They would talk to a pupil. They go to the official information websites. They don't go to the social media that much. And they also want to have a local university website to read about it, because parents in Vietnam are still not very good in English. Like at 40, 50, you can see the level of English. Tomorrow, if you talk to parents, you can see not all of them are really good in English. So they still want to read information in Vietnamese to make sure that their understandings are correct. It may change in the next 10 years at our generation, yeah. If you look at the parents and the students, that two different patterns, you can see that when you talk with the parents, you might find another channels and to deliver your message. Still have to work with the agents, still have to think about some localized kind of content translated into Vietnamese, some like brochure that you can give it to them. While the students, they are more active, you can be more digital, reach them on digital, like having some Facebook page of the schools, or even having some of the social campaigns on the online to reach to those students. And here are also some main social websites that the students and parents visit. In Vietnam, the two biggest social platforms are still Facebook and YouTube. People here, they don't use Twitter. And also we have a local social networks called Zing.me. Yeah. You can also go to Zing.vn. They have Zing.vn is one of the biggest local news portal. The spelling is exactly the same with Zing, Z-I-N-G.vn. So you can see all of the top news in local language there. Okay, one of the final thing I would say about the process of overseas studying decision making. First of all, I think before all overall, we still have to educate our market. This is what us, ENZ and the Chi Communication is doing right now. Because the visibilities of the New Zealand education here in the market is still on the process of growing. So we still need to invest our effort on educate our targets. And the education will come from PR activities, will come from the digital marketing activities, some workshops that we can do here in the market, whereby all of that activities will lead to the final decision by convincing them with the direct approach. So you have to come into the market. We have to have the agents. Still have to have the agent seminars to reach to the parents, convince them to sign off the last step. So there are three things I think we must remember. Is the digital is the must channels to educate the market, create awareness. But direct is important stage to turn prospects into leads. And the local content is the key to reach and engage with the local audience. Some ideas that I would suggest to the institutions here, of course, it's very draft ideas, and it depends on the really on the message and on the priority of the schools. But some ideas that you can think about, first of all, like on digital and mass media, you can try to think about improve your SEO and SEM, search engine optimization, because now you know that the Google search is still the #1 for parents to search information about education. So let's find out how you can really get your institutions there in the search. When they search about education in New Zealand, your institution must be there. Yeah. And set up local Facebook fan page for the school or the group of schools, if you can. Maybe you can think about some digital contests for students to show their ideas or to showcase their talents, and then you can support a prize. That kind of thing can also create talkabilities for the youth. You can think also of sponsor or support a prestigious program for Vietnamese students. We have some big programs. One of it is the IELTS Face Off. It's the TV and digital, TV and social TV shows for the English speaking students. They will compete in English. And many students who study abroad, like plan to study abroad, they have to study IELTS. And that's why this is a really good pool of prospects that we can tap in. And if we support this program, we can also garner our appearance there. And maybe you can think of influencer marketing program. If you have some influencers, you can bring them to New Zealand to try out or experience your products there, and they can help to share the experience on the internet. And for the direct channels, I know that tomorrow we will have the education fair. This is one of the biggest direct approach of New Zealand in the year. But also you can think about school exhibition. Maybe a group of schools goes to some big schools in Vietnam, big university or big schools in Vietnam to do the exhibition road shows to show the students here what you've got. And you can also get the leads from there. The regular seminars for parents or selective partner schools, or you can join also in selective agents program to get to the pool of the parents and students. Because of that limit of time, I will not have more information to elaborate. So now it should be the short time, 5 minutes for Q&A. I would appreciate if you have some questions for me.
If there aren't any questions now, we'll have a bit of a quick workshop at the end with some sticky notes, and you can put some feedback up at the end. But thank you, Chi. That was, I'm sure, lots of valuable information for everyone to think about, both for this weekend and future marketing. So thank you very much.